Well, what we're talking about is to return a bowl. This bowl has already been turned and dried. Matter of fact, I dried it in Bob Catledge's kiln. It is a little over an inch. And when you dry, let me see if I got a ruler. Yep, here we go. It's cherry. It is 11.5 inches. And the accepted norm is to turn it to 1/10 of the diameter, which this should be like 1 1/4, but it's not. I don't think it's that big.
What's the measurement in wax?
It's 1.03.
How long is it for pits to fit?
11.5. So it's a little bit smaller than it should be, but didn't have any problems, so we're good to go. Now, you can see that it has warped. It is not perfect, and I like an expansion mode. Some people like compression. I like expansion. It doesn't take as much wood. It does just as well. I don't have my tendons breaking. And you have to leave wide enough space on the outside when you do an expansion. That's the critical thing. You could do this even shallower than this is. This is about 1/8. When I first started doing these, I was doing about 1/4. But at any rate, it no longer fits this 100 millimeter jaws. So what we have to do first is reverse it and fix that. Now,
Is your tendon, is it dovetail?
yes. I use Nova jaws, and their expansion mode is dovetail. Let's see.
Did you put something inside there, Gerald?
I put a piece of rubber inner tube in there. Truck tube, as a matter of fact, but, big deal. Any tube will work.
Where do you put it?
Inside here. It's on the chuck so that it ain't going to be perfect. Okay, that's about as good as we're going to get. Now, I have a little tool. I got the idea from Mike Peace, but there are several other people that do this. And what it is, it's try one.
I'm trying to catch up.
Okay. It is basically a skew, Harbor Freight, as a matter of fact, and you grind it out so that you have your dovetail right here. And when I fit it in here, it will regrind that. So let me get this on first. Always wear your safety protection. We got to have the disclaimer. I'm not going to do a norm on you, though, and tell you to wear your safety glasses. People always ask about speeds, and especially right here, it's not critical. But I like to do around 800 or 900 for this particular operation. Now, what I did not do, I did not bring my calipers to measure this. So I'm probably going to make it just a little bigger than I need it. The idea being here to get it back round and to get it to fit the chuck. So let's see if that was it.
So when you rough turn this, you left the bottom piece on there so you can recenter it?
Correct. Now I use a cone center most of the time, and so that's why that little divot is a lot bigger than what this one will make. Let's see if we got it. It would help if I get this. It's in there. Yep. We do so much demoing down here that I have duplicates of most everything. I don't have a duplicate chuck. Well, I have a chuck. Extra chuck. No, it's not enough. Okay. We're not through yet. Yeah, that might be a good idea. Although, a lot of the time you can do this without the rubber.
That just keep floating?
That just keeps your, yep, helps to do this. All right. When Jimmy Clues was here, I used this to cut a tenon, and I was using it to cut all the way across, and Jimmy says, "Why aren't you using the gouge?" So when I cut this originally, I cut this in about a 1/2 inch right here, and then I take my 1/2 inch gouge and cut the rest of the way to that center. Of course, now, you know that center's warped too, so it's not perfect either.
Flatten the bottom of that recess also, so you have a flat surface for the chuck.
Yes.
So it's cutting in 2 places.
Yeah, it cuts on two angles. It cuts on this side, and it cuts right here.
Okay.
And once I get this on, I'll pass that around. I can look at that. Okay, we got it that time. Even your bottom, if you use an expansion mode, or it doesn't matter if you use an expansion or tenon, the bottom of this is going to be warped a little bit. So you want to cut that too when you do it. If you're using a tenon, a mortise, then you want to cut all the way to the flat, because this needs to be flat on your jaws. So let's see. Tighten just a little bit more, make sure we're there, and we're there. Now, I could, well, let's just go ahead. Just for safety's sake and for what we're doing, let's go ahead and bring tailstock up. I usually don't at home do this, but here we're going to do that. I want to pass that around. We're done with that one. Now, I use a 5/8 gouge for most of the stuff I do. I did bring a 1/2, just in case. This one's just about gone. I got another one in the tool cabinet at home. This is a Thompson, and I have it in a kind of a modified Ellsworth grind. And y'all can look at this later, but I have the heel ground off, so I don't have as much drag with it. Let's get this up here. One thing about when you're doing this, I'm rubbing that dang handle. There we go. What we're doing is we're cutting with the grain. This is a side grain bowl. So we're going this way. So the grain is going like this. Let's look at it like this. So we're cutting across the grain that way. If you cut back the other way, and I've seen some people that actually say to cut from the rim to the foot. If you're cutting back that way, you're raising the grain. When you hit it, you're going to have some tear out. But by doing it from the bottom to the top, not only do you have less tear out, you have less warp at the bottom than you do at the top. And let's see if we can show that. Well, let's just turn it on. Okay. You see I got a little bounce there. I got a lot of bounce there. So I start from the foot. And And you can go back and forth if you're careful. And my flute is pretty much open. If you're a beginner, you might not want to do that. Instead, you want to close it and like this. And it's really not essential what part of the bowl you're doing. Now you see where the bottom is all there now.
Hey, Gerald,
Round.
how do I get that camera to focus?
You zoomed in too much.
It's all the way out.
Is it out? In that case.
Maybe you can raise it. Sorry, guys. Anybody that wants to learn how to use these cameras, raise your hand. Come on. You need somebody
There we go.
like Gerald and me.
Okay. Now you can see it.
There we go. Yeah. Thank you. Come on now. Somebody raise your hand. All right.
Now, if it was Randy New doing this, he'd already have the outside done because Randy is very aggressive. I'm not extremely aggressive. Now, you see it, I'm getting more into the bounce up here. If you don't get in a big hurry, you won't have too much problem with that bounce. If you get in a big hurry, well, you're going to beat yourself to death. I forgot about how big this tool rest is. I'd have brought my smaller one. Okay. Now you see I'm getting some tear out up in here from the bounce and some down here. Now, something that I don't do, but some people do, and I do have the tool, is use a scraper on the outside. I usually use my scraper on the inside, but you can use a scraper on the outside, and just to show you how to do it, you want the scraper flat or down just slightly. With this kind of scraper, you do down just slightly. With a negative rake, you can use it flat. So let's see what this does. This is going to take out all those bumps and ridges. Now it can be done with the gouge, and I want to show you how to do it with the gouge too. It's somewhat easier to do with the scraper. Okay, now that's, can you see that? That's a lot smoother. The other way to do it is with a gouge. You lower the handle to your side. It's a scrape. Yeah, I might not be able to do it with this. Yep. Okay. It's a shear scrape. You lower the gouge like this. Now, it's hard to do because my gouge is kind of short. And you close the flute up. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but we're getting some angel hair shavings. And that gives you a similar effect to using a scraper. But I just want to show you all there's different ways of doing this. What most demonstrators just demonstrate what they do. And that's all you get. You don't see, hey, there's other ways to do it. And of course, as woodworkers and wood turners, we know there's always another way. It's not my way or the highway like Lyle says. It's lots of different ways to do stuff. And there's even more ways to do this than what I'm showing you, but this is what I do. I actually brought another blank, a bit smaller than this, that is river birch. The river birch tends to get a little tear out on me, and didn't want to really get into it unless I had to. Okay, we're just about there. Of course, it still needs sanding. And as y'all saw, even that Monaco sands, of course he starts about 220s. I've never been able to do that. Okay, I still got a spot there that hadn't been touched yet. I don't do very many bowls this shape. I like to turn my upper part inward. And you'll notice that I have the tool handle anchored in my hip. Now, if I was at home, I'd probably turn this down a whole lot more than I'm doing here. But basically, we just want to get the idea. We're not going to have a finished bowl. We're not going to do any sanding. Okay, this upper rim's coming off anyway. Any questions on what we're doing on the outside, or what we've done on the outside? First, this is the way I do it. It's personal preference. There's no reason not to. I know about where it is, and that's why I stopped. This right here is coming off. And that, see, I hadn't touched that. And then I'm going to show you something else on the rim. There is actually a crack right here where that knot is. But I don't know of any reason to have it first or second. It's just that's the way I do it. You can do it either way. That's true. That's why I'm used to working on Powermatic, so
Yeah, you don't have problems.
I don't have that problem. Unless it's really big, if it's really big and bad, because, you originally took all that off when you hollowed it. It is a little bit of vibration. Now, right here I want to show you something that I've been doing, and that is to bring this rim down. There's several ways to do a rim. One of which that we probably most of us do is to round it. And which, by the way, once you get this rim cut, the way I'm cutting it, you definitely want to sand this off. This is a very sharp edge right here. But by going inward with it, you get a little bit more attention to the design of the rim. And this is something I'm experimenting with. I got one at home. I did a practice piece and I forgot to bring it. Is to do a decoration on the rim like Phil does on some of his small bowls. But by cutting this rim in and then undercutting like Matt did his, he had a different reason for doing his undercut. But if you do a little undercut, it makes it easier to hold the bowl. Now you see how much of this rim is coming off just to get it all the way back to where I was at. It's a good bit. And there is no particular angle to do this at. you could pick whatever you want. Yeah. And as you do this, you do lift the handle of the tool, and that's what gets that inward cut. And because that's still not quite there. You know, it's funny, while I was thinking while I was practicing this, I really don't do that many bowls anymore. And some people might say, why? And I have to say, because they don't sell. I give away as many as I can. You know, you reach a point where you get tired of giving them away. People say, oh, here comes that guy with another bowl, and I got no place to put it. But I enjoy turning them. Don't get me wrong. This is not my favorite design. Like I said, I kind of like an inward cut. You can cut this corner with gouge if you feel lucky. They do tend to kind of grab a little bit. So as Jimmy says, sand it. There's no reason that you have to use gouge for everything you do. Just like there's no reason you can't use scrapers. If it does the job for you and what you want to do it. Just as long as it's safe.
Did everybody sign in, check off for this month on these lists here? No? Okay.
For you new guys, don't forget to sign in on the logs. I actually printed a new log just for this meeting. Okay. When you start... Yep, I got it up. When you start cutting on the inside, you can do this and cut it. Or an easier way so that you don't mess up your rim is come from the... Whoa! Sorry, guys. I think I messed that one up. Everybody okay? Nobody hit? Kind of. Where did I put the... There. Okay. Terry asked about the drying process, guys. Okay, everybody settle down. Excitement's over, I hope. Okay, there are several different methods you can use for drying, and we could spend all day on that, but a brief synopsis, I must tell you my experience and how I started out. I started out using half-inch tenons. They do sometimes crack off when you get a slight catch, not a catastrophic catch like that. That was weird. But most of the time, I don't have any problem with them cracking. You're talking about them cracking in the drying process. There is a couple of possibilities. The main one is that crack was already there. You can't always see what's going on. With wood, but a lot of times your wood will have microscopic crack. Well, okay, everybody knows when you cut a log, it's got a crack. First thing, when it hits the ground, it has got a crack. I don't care what you've done, it's got a crack somewhere. When that happens, and you take that piece of wood like this, and you prep and you cut your tenon on here, if that crack is out here, it's in your tenon. And I've had that happen. I've seen it. It hadn't affected the turn that I did because I turn that off before I do my tenon if I see it. But that could be what you're having. But as far as drying, what I do,
Excuse me. Somebody has a white car parked up here. Yeah. They've asked us to move it. Okay. Can you park back over here just a little bit? Okay. I understand, but yeah, acting museum just asked us to move it.
it's small, it's not hard. When you do your rough turn, I then put mine in a bag with shavings, in a paper bag. You doing that? Okay. I open the bag every day. I weigh mine every day for the first week or two at least. Sometimes it just depends on what I'm doing in the shop and how many green bowls I've got. And you need to open that bag up every day and let some of that moisture out. Because if you don't, you can get some mildew in there. And then after 2 weeks, I dump the shavings out. But also, if the bag gets wet, change bags. But as far as your tendons cracking, it's a possibility you didn't get down past your sapwood when you did. Did you do a blank like I showed you with it outside? It's a possibility you didn't get past your sapwood. Sapwood's always the weakest part. It's a real good design feature, and it looks. Let's see if one piece of this has sapwood on it. Yeah, it's a great design feature. It looks really good, but if you don't get it off the back out of your tenon, this is very weak wood by comparison to the heartwood in the center. So that's another possibility. Well, like I said, I've been using the Kill. And I haven't lost any bowls, but I have had some to crack in the Kill. There's no guarantees anywhere. It's wood, you know. It's like when people talk about, oh, I lost this. Yeah, hey, it's a piece of wood. It's going to happen. But did that give you an idea?
The last three, I tried to do that with it, and I don't try to do it. 1 to 10, just like put it in the sack, put shavings, and come back in about 2 weeks, and all three of them just split. Totally unusable.
What kind of wood? What kind of?
Remember, one of them was, and it was fresh cut wood. One of them was ash. I don't remember the other two. Maybe 2 ashes and 1 other something.
I don't have an explanation. Anybody got any ideas?
You use a product called Anchor Seal.
I'm sorry.
Look in your wood turning catalog for a product called Anchor Seal.
Anchor seal.
Just like a boat anchor.
Right.
Yes, it is a
I had these.
It's a wax emulsion.
And if you turn your bow back immediately, your entire bow
Mildew do this.
Hmm?
What does the mildew
I've used salmon seal.
do to it?
It discolors it. Sometimes it goes into the wood.
First time I've heard of taking it out of the bag. I've put stuff in there 5 years ago, still in that same bag. I know telling what that ball burns.
It depends on the wood, the moisture conditions. For instance, pecan that's really wet when you turn it will do it if you don't air it out a little bit. Maple is really bad about it because those little black spots show really bad on you. Notice it abundantly.
Project the next week, dump all those piece of bags out. Clean out the bone.
Okay, let's start again. Whoop. Wrong gouge. This one is river birch, and like I said, I really didn't want to do this one because it does tear out pretty bad. I had a commission before Christmas. This guy had cut a big river birch, and I think it was about 16 to 17 inches in diameter. And he wanted bowls let's see, this was, I think it was a month before Christmas. He wanted bowls for Christmas. And I told him, that was before I got the kill. I told him, I said, I don't know, I'll try. And then I got the kill and I did it. I did 7 bowls out of it. Much bigger than this, of course. And this is basically a scrap. River birch. Okay, we're going to slow down a little bit. It cuts really nice. Like I said, it does tend to tear out. Not as much fun as cherry. And with smaller bowls, you can get by like I did without using the rubber. Larger bowls, you're going to have a little something to stop them from slipping. Again, we're doing the outside like we did before. I'm not going to take as much time on this one as I did on the cherry. Since y'all have already got your dime's worth with what we've done already. I have to say that may be a first for me. I don't think I've seen us break a bowl in a meeting. Okay, this is not as big, and it's not going to be as much off the rim. Again, when I come off the rim like that, you do get a little tear out, but since I haven't turned the rim yet, it's not anything to worry about. If you turn that rim already, you would want to cut from this direction inward, because let's see if I got some. All right, right there. You're going to get that if you cut the way I just did. So if you've already cut this rim, you want to cut downward at the rim, which for the purist would change your curve in your bowl. I'm not a purist, but there are those who are. There's a guy on the AAW forum that's always talking about the curve of the bowl, and the sanding takes all those curves off. When you sand a bowl, if you've got any detail in it, you're going to take some of the detail out. It's just almost impossible to totally keep any detail that you got when you sand. And he's always talking about that. I'm not that kind of purist, and I don't turn the way he does. But that's just something to think about. Okay, now we cut the rim again, inward a little bit. Now, that's still a sharp edge, even though I don't have it quite down. A little bit more. The thing about cutting the rim is, unless you stop it and look at it, you don't know where you're at with it. Because when it's turning at 800, 900 RPM, you can't see it. Okay, it's down. Down enough. Now this time, I'm not going to do a back cut. We're just going to go straight in. And sometimes this is the hardest cut to get started. And you want your flute closed Okay, closed means this is up and down. That's closed. Open is with the round part on the back. Turn that 90 degrees, that's closed. You want your flute closed when you go in. And the bad part about this is you've got your arm stretched out and you don't have any support. So you got to support it a little bit with this inside hand. And then as you bring it back, get the nose leading the cut. Open up the flute just a little bit. Now, there are several different gouges. I don't have one. I don't use one. It's called a bottom of the bowl gouge. And it does this bottom a lot better. So I'll show you what I do. There's two ways. One is a hunter. This is a carbide, but it's a little different than other carbides. This is a cup shape. Got it? This cutter is cup shape, and it actually cuts. Other carbides are known as scrapers. They're not cutting. So with this one thing that you do with your bowl gouge, you should not be coming backwards on the inside with it. In other words, once you get in, you should not be pulling it back. You can do a little scraping that way, but to do that, you have to turn your flute like this and just barely touch this edge. And let's just do that. Now, that's a scraping cut. And that's producing fine shaving. Okay, you see the shavings right here? That's what that does. Not my preferred scraper because that does lead to some problems. Okay, under. I like to start it in the center and bring it back. If you ever watch John Lucas's videos, he does it a little different, but he's a little better than I am at this. And like I said, with the hunter, you can go back and forth. You don't want to start this too flat. If you start it flat, you're going to get a catastrophic. You start it at about a 35 to 40 degree angle. I've had better luck with this finishing the bottom of my bowl than anything else I've done except scraper, which is the other alternative. Any questions on what we've done so far with the hunter? It's the hunter. This is number 4. He don't do many number 4s anymore because he's gone more to number 2s and number 1s. The Viceroy, which is a hollowing tool, is excellent for hollowing. If you're looking for something that's fairly easy hollowing, Viceroy is really good. And I forgot to turn the mic back on, didn't I? No, I got it on. Okay. Okay. This is a Henry Taylor scraper. And I reground it to a negative grind. And I can't even tell you. I think the top is 25 and the bottom is about 65 or 60, somewhere in there. It might be just the fact that you've got a larger angle on the bottom than you do on the top. And it has a burr. With this, let's see. You can use it flat. Of course, you don't want to punch it into the work. Even that will get you a nice little catch. But with a negative rake, you don't have to worry as much about catches because it's not an aggressive tool. This is not the thing you want to do hollowing with. If you want to hollow with a scraper, use a regular scraper. A negative rake, you'll be there all day. Okay, Can you see the shavings? And let's see what it feels like. Not bad. I don't have. Didn't bring my regular scraper, so I can't show you it. I don't think there is. I think we got gas here. No, we got a skew. With a regular scraper, what you would do is you would angle this tool downward. I can't tell you an angle. I don't know that there is one. But you do not want to come in straight with it because that is a catch waiting to happen. So you would angle it downward into the work. And still, a light cut is best. You want to keep your tool rest up for support because the closer in you can get your tool rest, the less likely you are to get that catastrophic catch. Go ahead.
And when you do lean it down, you're still going at center line, that midpoint.
Not,
If you angle it down, the tip needs to be hitting the center line.
no, not necessarily. The tool is not flat with a regular scraper. It's angled. And any point on this can be going in. It can go like this, it can go like this, as long as the tool is angled in. And a light touch. There are some people, matter of fact, Robo Hippie, if you're familiar with him, Reed Gray, he does all his hollowing with scrapers. And it's there. You can do it. It's not something I do. Did some. Works good on greenwood. Dry, I wouldn't want to do it. Scrapers have a place.
Sure, we'll take a flat scraper like that. You go to your drafting kit and get out your little old cheap plastic French curve. With that marker, you draw a French curve on that tip. Then sharpen that to match a French curve, which does excellent to the bottom of the bowl. The curve of your bowl is already in your tool.
Yeah, my regular scraper has that on it. But the negative ray, I've never done that to it. Just haven't got around to it.
One thing, Gerald, that helps me is my tool rest. I have a tool rest that is pretty close to the curvature of the bowl, and it goes up in there. That way, as I come around, my tool doesn't get shorter, or as it comes around, get further away, maybe.
The overhang.
You keep
overhang doesn't change.
the distance between the bowl and the tool rest stays the same all the way through the curve, which of course that depends on the curve of the bowl you're making too, which, you know, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other.
I found if my overhang changes a little bit, then I start having little problems.
Yeah.
If I can follow that curvature.
Another thing, not so much with negative rate, but with regular scraper, if you turn it up at an angle like this, you also get a better cut. Then the other side, there's a downside of scrapers. You have to replenish this burr regularly. Now, some people grind the burr off. They don't use a burr. I do. And one way to replenish it is with a burnishing tool like this. This will work. You can make your own if somebody's got a piston. Piston rods make good ones. And you just run it over it like that. And you can get by several times doing that. Most people say in hardwood that the scraper will last about 10 seconds. The burr will last about 10 seconds, and it's gone. It'll still feel sharp, but really your burr is gone. So if you watch Stuart Batty, he goes back to his grinder rather frequently when he's demoing, and he does a lot of scraper finishing. Yes, sir.
That furniture that you've got, a ceramic drill bit, goes really good.
It's another thing that'll work. Yeah, it's got to be a hardened steel to do it. But you still have to go back to the grinder. Anybody have any questions on what we've done? Like I said, I wasn't planning on finishing this bowl. We just
Negative negative rate scraper is a little more versatile.
Negative rate will give you a better finish and less tear out. As far as yeah, fewer catches too. I have heard some people say you cannot make a catch with a negative rate scraper. I don't know. I won't advertise it that way, but that's what I've heard. Because of the angle, it's like taking. Okay, let's see. That's the angle that's flat right there. So when you go in this way, it's like you got your scraper up like this. So if you keep this angle, a steep angle, you won't have a catch with a scraper. But for some reason, even with that, with a flat scraper, you'll still get some catches, even when you have it angled good. They're hard to work with sometimes. Any other questions on turning a bowl, other than how to get catches and how to bust them up?
Yeah, that just is a design option. You could probably take that, somehow mount that blank and put something in the middle and have a stripe through it or something.
Yeah. Well, okay. Now, y'all laugh about this.
I'm not laughing.
No. I'm not.
Gerald, take that take the bowl, set it up on the bandsaw and cut it flat straight across. Put your board, piece of plywood or something behind it, mount it on the wall, and you got something that sits there.
Well, it's something else I saw just recently. It's cut in half and use this for a sconce, a wall sconce. Put a light in it. But it's got enough in the bottom that I could glue it back together and turn it. I have done that.
Yeah. Now, let me ask, and I'm not
Very carefully.
I'm not knocking the way you do it, but because that was an expansion, do you think that help make it split more rather than a compression thinner?
Probably.
Because I know you tightened it in there pretty good.
But
because it did split right along that grain line there.
the tenons will split too, though.
It'll come off too, yeah.
Yeah, well, it usually it'll break the tenon
Yeah.
rather than break the bowl, and that's an advantage of using a tenon rather than mortise. You will break the tenon, and I have glued those back on too, and it works. If you use wood glue, it's stronger than the wood. Now, if you got punky wood, now that's another story altogether. And we're not going to talk about that. If I have a problem like that with punky wood, if you break the tenon, what you can do instead, you can glue a sacrificial tenon on it and turn your new tenon. And that's about the only way you can save it. Get down that far, there's just